Hello Year 7s, welcome to your lesson work for this week. As you can see from the very large letters on that first slide, we are setting you an assessment which shouldn't really come as any surprise to any of you. Don't panic, it's all on stuff that you did in the lead up to Christmas, so it shouldn't be very stressful for you. You know our attitudes towards the assessments. It's all about being able to see what you're good at, what you've improved on from last time, and then what you need to focus on to improve for the next piece of assessment that you're going to do. So it really is just this continual working process, as opposed to us standing there going, "Oh, you didn't do it right." No, it's a case of, well, you did this well done. You've improved on this bit from last time, brilliant. Have you thought about trying to do this? And that will help you to gain higher marks next time. So if you're sat there opening this and listening to me prattle on at you going, "I can't do this," then stop now, take a deep breath, and remember, this is a good thing. Okay, so the way it's going to work is that I'm going to run through the assessment questions. I'm obviously not going to give you the answers, so this is a relatively short piece of me burbling on at you, and it's just going to be about giving you some guidance, and then you go off and you write your answers. I will also issue out on EduLink, so this will come out via EduLink. As well as that will be a document that gives you a step-by-step guide as to how you upload your work onto SharePoint. Because rather than having like 9,000,001 people emailing us, we'd much rather, and it would be much easier if you start to create your own folder on SharePoint where you can upload your work. And that's why I've created this PDF document, and it goes through, it's got pictures and arrows and lovely little bits and pieces that does tell you how to do this. So if you follow it through step by step, then it will work, and that will just apply for all future work for as long as we're in lockdown for, which hopefully, fingers crossed, won't be too long, because I really miss seeing all of you lot in a classroom, even though you're all slightly crazy, but then I am as well, so it's fine. Right, I'd like to say I have a sensible script in front of me, but I am just treating this exactly the same way as a lesson. I just don't have you lot in front of me to sort of vaguely annoy while I'm doing it. In terms of writing your assessment and uploading it, obviously we're constrained by whatever you have at home available to you. In theory, well, in fact in practice as well, all of you have access to Microsoft Word. Okay, the reason we know you have access to Microsoft Word is because of the license that we pay for in school. It's an educational license. As soon as you start using your school email address to log on to Microsoft Office, it recognises it and it goes, oh yes, this person can use this. So given that you have access to Microsoft Word, we would much prefer that you typed up your answers, saved it as a file and uploaded it following the step-by-step guide that I've created for you as to how to upload your work onto SharePoint. But I'm also very aware that not everyone has access to a laptop or a device at all times, because obviously parents are at home working. This is an absolute nightmare situation. So it's not a case of that we're expecting you to absolutely upload and write your work on Word. It's not going to happen. So if you can manage to get your work onto Word, fine, do it that way. If you can only do it on a piece of paper, also brilliant, but what you do is you take a photo of it and you upload your photo onto SharePoint so we can still read it, as long as it's a readable photo. Please don't do something where it's like 3 miles away and we can't actually read what you've written. It needs to be relatively clear so we can read through what you've written, but that's actually fine. And then more importantly, if you've written it in a notebook or on a piece of paper, keep the piece of paper safe, because it will need to be stuck into your exercise book when you return to school, because obviously there'll be marking documentation, and we're going to do feedback the same way as we normally do with all of this. Okay, so we would rather have all this stuff get together, but we can't make any absolutes as to, oh, you have to do it on Word. It's not going to happen. So do it whichever way suits you best. Also, in regard to when you choose to do the lesson, that's down to you. This is pre-record. I don't really believe in setting up live lessons, again because of that issue of lots of people needing like one laptop in a house or whatever, bandwidth to do with broadband. It's an absolute nightmare. So I'm going to be sticking to pre-records across the department as we go forward. You then do the lesson when you are able to. For some of you that might be during your normal timetabled hour. For others of you that might be a problem. Do it as and when you can. Some of you, it might be you can only focus for 10 minutes, then you need a break, then you need to come back, then you take another break. If you think about it in terms of lessons, then very rarely do we make you sit for a whole hour on a screen not talking to anyone. Yep, we're kind of expecting you to do that now. So I don't. You will see as we go through the presentation that it's broken down into different particular sections, different numbers of questions. So absolutely, you can do it in very short pieces of time, 10 minutes, break, another 10 minutes, break, and then come back for another 20 minutes, as long as it realistically sort of adds up to an hour of a lesson and going over a little maybe because there'll be 20 minutes of homework. So 80 minutes in total, that's it. Alright? If you are spending longer than 80 minutes, then I shall be cross, and I'm sure you know me by now. I have godlike abilities. I'll know if you're spending longer on this because there is no reason to do so. Part of what we have to train you to be able to do is to write within a time limit. When you go into an exam, when you're older, GCSEs, A-levels, you only have a certain amount of time in which to be able to write your answers. You don't get to spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours doing it. So again, as with everything else, let's start now making sure that you can write within a time limit. So maximum, and I mean an absolute maximum, realistically it's an absolute maximum of 60 minutes, because once you take away the time we faff around in lessons and the talking, the wittering and the nattering and everything like that, that's about it. But I'm going to say maximum 80 minutes, which would be your hour long lesson and your 20 minutes homework. If you don't finish, then firstly start to learn how to use your time more effectively, and that would be one of your targets to focus on for next time. Secondly, write a note at the bottom. Go, Miss, I spent 80 minutes doing this, I didn't quite finish, I'll make sure I improve for next time. And that's brilliant. That's all we ask. Okay? Because again, we're training you. You're only year 7. Right? You've got to get used to these bits and pieces. Anyway, enough of me rambling on about all of that general stuff. Let's actually move on to what you're going to be doing. So, Judaism assessment. Lesson objective: to test understanding of the importance of the founders of Judaism. And this is what I mean. It goes back to the work that we did in lessons with us about Moses and Abraham. Because then what we're going to be doing, once you've done all this, is we're going to be going on to look at Jewish practice. Okay, so how do Jews demonstrate their religion in their everyday life? We're extending the Judaism scheme of work a little bit longer than we would normally, because it's just it's an odd way of looking at it, but it's a slightly easier religion for you to do distance-wise when it's to do with practice, because it's so regimented, it's so codified, there are lots of laws and rituals and everything, that we can set that more easily than doing the more abstract concept of Buddhism, which is our next religion. So we've just sort of fiddled around with it a little bit, just because it kind of meets the needs of being in lockdown and everything like that. And then when you're back in the classroom, we will sort of look again at everything and see where we go from there. Anyway, back to the lesson. I've really got to stop going off on tangents. And first set of questions. And the questions have been set out to test different skills. Very, very basic, simple knowledge questions. 10 minutes maximum spent answering both of those. Briefly outline the story of Abraham. Remember the videos? Briefly outline the story of Moses. Now there's one class of mine that I know have watched The Prince of Egypt, so you've got loads more than 5 marks, but everyone else you have watched the decent video on Moses. There is plenty there for you to be able to use to get that information down. That's why it shouldn't take you very long to just quickly pop it down so you know what you're doing. Prose, as in full sentences, not bullet points, please. Okay? So I know it says outline, but outline does mean full sentences. Moving on to the explanation. Explanation questions are always why. Something, 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 because. Explain to me, tell me why something happens. So, why are Moses and Abraham considered to be important figures within Judaism? Think very carefully, because we have been over this in lessons. And I've used the idea of importance, and I've used the idea of how they are still relevant, their lives are still relevant, what they achieved is still relevant to Jewish people today. That's what you need to go back to. So realistic, I've said 10 minutes, probably 10, 15 minutes on that one. And then coming onto the next slide, you've got your final question, which is obviously much larger question. This is a mini essay question. I mean, I admit we're being mean. We've set you up with GCSE questions. There's no getting around this. This is GCSE questions. But you have looked at this type of stuff before. It's you just having a go at it, seeing what you come up with, and then we give you the feedback and you go, oh yeah, no, I get it. Or you might go, still don't quite get it, and then you might do next time. So, Abraham is a more important Jewish leader than Moses. It's going to be worth 12 marks. I've said around 15 minutes. Again, as long as you're within that sort of 80-minute maximum time limit, it's going to be down to you how much time you spend on doing this. But I want to see 3 paragraphs. Your first appeal paragraph will be detailing why someone might agree with the statement and say, yeah, actually, Abraham is a more important Jewish leader than Moses because of this, this, and this. Then I want you to write 1 appeal paragraph detailing why someone might disagree. Someone might turn around and go, no, I don't think so. Moses, way more important than Abraham because of this, 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 and this. Final paragraph that I want to see is you. What's your opinion on this? Which do you think is more important? Who do you think is more important? Do you think it's Abraham or do you think it's Moses? But why do you think that? And you should be starting to use different conclusions than you've come to, and different arguments than you've come to in the previous paragraphs. Okay? So it's a really simple, straightforward outline. We've all done appeal paragraphs, point, explanation or evidence, and then evidence or explanation, and then link back to the question. Okay? You've done this before. Obviously not those particular questions because it's Judaism, but you've done this type of question. You saw them in the baseline assessment, you saw them in your Hinduism assessment, you've had the feedback on this. Again, this is just, let's practice, let's see where we go with it. Okay, so maximum 80 minutes, and I do mean that is a genuine maximum 80 minutes, and that includes the time that I've spent wittering, which is coming up for 15 minutes now, and I'm really sorry. Okay, but this is not anything to be stressed about. There's enough going on in the world at the moment that is probably causing you concern, and don't. Okay, just deep breath, do what you need to do. You're all fabulous, you know you're all fabulous. And I will say on a personal note, and I think I do speak for Miss Reynolds when I say this, we do miss you. The thing that we love most is seeing you in our classroom, seeing when you understand, and you bring such amazing ideas and concepts, and you link things together, and you say things, and we hadn't thought about religion or ideas in that particular way, and that's what's just amazing. So we will get back to that. You will be back in front of us, and you will be bored senseless at some point by me talking at you. But this isn't forever. As I'm sat in my classroom and it's very quiet out there. I never know how to finish these things. I think I'm done. But look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will probably pass over to Miss Reynolds. She can do next week's lesson because she's much better at talking and finishing up PowerPoints than I am. But yeah, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you definitely very soon, and I will hopefully see you at some point in the near future as well. Bye girls!